Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Fitness Education Series produced by the Australian Fitness Academy. It's like progressive overload for your brain. I'm your host, Tom Rock, and in today's episode, I want to talk about the sauna. So, shout out to Richard for this podcast topic idea. I was having a bit of a chat about the sauna over the break, and it just popped up, so I thought a great opportunity to have a chat about the sauna. And I'm going to base this quick chat on one sort of a research review that's from 2021. I'll put a link in the description to this if you want to check it out. Click the link. It's a relatively detailed article, but it sort of works through and discusses a lot of the literature around the health benefits. The review is called Sauna Use as a Lifestyle Practice to Extend Health Span. And it sort of discusses different aspects of sauna use and how it's applied, and looks at the outcomes of it as well. And it looks at the data in these different research that have looked at improvements in cardiovascular health, neurological health, as well as metabolic benefits associated with sauna use. So lots of really cool stuff and things to take away from this if you have a bit of read. But we'll go through it quickly, and then we'll have a bit of an overall chat about sauna use, I guess. So obviously, there's a lot of differences in different saunas these days, whether it's steam, infrared, and temperatures. All these sort of things vary. I'm not going to go too much detail into temperatures and time frames and modalities and how to do it, because you can sort of probably look into that a little bit more yourself, and it's going to be very individualized. So definitely don't go away today and just all of a sudden jump into a sauna for 30 minutes if you've never sauna before, or you're unsure about how to utilize it, and if you're not sure, definitely check with your GP before you jump into a sauna as well. But a lot of the research that they sort of looked at here, generally the sauna was between 70 and 90 degrees, roughly in most of the studies, and generally the use time was around 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the study. But that is something that generally, if you've never used a sauna, it would be building up. So you might start with 5 minutes, then slowly build up to 10, then maybe 15, and so on. But generally, a lot of the studies nothing really, all sort of touch on, went sort of over 30 minutes. So it was generally between 70 and 90 degrees for maybe 15 to 20 minutes, would be a general guideline. But again, if you haven't done a lot of heat exposure before, starting potentially cooler or doing shorter durations would be recommended. But yeah, as we go through, we'll sort of end the chat with sort of if they're useful, or if you should go in the sauna or find a sauna. They are sort of getting more readily available these days. So generally, the article starts off touching on responses to heat stress, and this is obviously that's what a sauna is. It's going to cause heat stress to the body, and how does that cause potentially beneficial adaptations for our cardiovascular health and neurological health and metabolic health. So one of the main things they tend to look at with this heat response is protein damage. And what they sort of look at, and we'll sort of come back to this at the end, is that this sort of response that activates antioxidants, repair, and all this sort of heat protein. We'll talk about heat shock proteins in a second, but a lot of these responses are also triggered by moderate to vigorous intensity exercises. So it'll be interesting when we come back around to, while saunas may show these things, potential health benefits, potentially these are things where you are getting if you're doing any sort of moderate to vigorous cardiovascular or interval training. These type of benefits, such as sort of the activation of heat shock proteins, you may be already experiencing, just not through the sauna or heat stress pathway. So we won't dive into heat shock proteins too much, but heat shock proteins provide protection against cellular stress, or they can do. So activation of heat shock proteins can slow muscle atrophy, they can promote longevity, and they can sort of protect against neuromuscular or neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, and we'll talk about cardiovascular health later as we go. But these are heat shock proteins are activated under heat stress. So that's where sauna shows that heat stress activates these heat shock proteins, and then that can over time um, promote longevity and leads to some of these um, improvements that we see, or health related improvements that we see from sauna. But basically, the increased expression of heat shock proteins can slow muscle atrophy, and which would in general promote what we call longevity. So, um, yeah, potentially beneficial. Again, these are things that we may get from exercise or moderate to vigorous activity, moderate to vigorous intensity activity. So, while sauna may be an option, if we're currently exercising, sauna may not be the be all and end all. And if we're solely relying on sauna, are we getting the benefits that other benefits we get potentially from exercise? So certain cohorts or certain people may benefit from sauna more than others potentially. But there's other, I'm not going to go through word by word this research, but it also looks at cardiovascular health, and it sort of says long-term sauna use protects against cardiovascular health. So improved ventricular function, improved resting blood pressure, improved endothelial function, so blood vessel functions and things like that. Um, it also looks at, it mentions that in conjunction or combining frequent sauna use with aerobic exercise also has a synergistic effect on cardiovascular related mortality, so cardiovascular health and disease. So exercise is obviously useful, potentially providing putting sauna with it can be good, but again, age and demographics, this study, you'd have to look into all the individual studies and work out what the cohorts were. They weren't huge cohorts, a lot of them, and some of them may be sort of older adults and things like that. So it's something to sort of delve into on a deeper level if you're super, super interested. Inflammation is another thing they touch on, so sauna use and potentially reducing inflammation. And inflammation's important component. It happens all the time, and it's basically our body's immune response. Chronic inflammation is generally not a great thing, and can lead to things like chronic diseases and cardiovascular disease, diabetes, things like that. And these general markers of inflammation increase with aging, but obviously exercise and these things, eating healthy, are all good things to slow that down or reduce the risk as much as possible. Exercise provokes an inflammatory response driven by the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines. So basically, exercise causes inflammation, which is fine. What that does in turn is that sort of creates a counter response driven by the release of anti-inflammatory cytokines. So our body basically, we create this inflammatory response via exercise, and then our body sort of counters that and increases the anti-inflammatory response, which is good. So this exercise-induced response is due to the increase in the body's core temperature, and that generally likely also explains some of the benefits of regular exercise as a lifestyle habit, as it's going to, in the long run, improve our body ability to reduce inflammation and have a lower level of chronic inflammation. And that's where they sort of look at passive strategies that increase body temperature, such as a sauna, similarly reduce inflammation and may be particularly suited for individuals who are unable to participate in regular exercise due to physical or cognitive limitations. So potentially sauna has that, we see those health benefits, or these health benefits show up in the research of sauna, is because people are able to use this as a modality if they're not exercising. But if they say you're exercising, you're getting all those benefits of anti-inflammation, as well as a whole range of other things, but that's where the sauna is also assisting. But if we're exercising, we potentially maybe don't need the sauna as much. And I think it's important to look at this article as a whole, because realistically, sauna can be good, but it's probably not the only thing someone should be doing to improve their health. I think it's probably the cherry on top. If you can do it, it's probably going to have a few little health benefits and potentially maybe help your inflammation. There's a lot of great stuff on mental health as well. So it has been shown to reduce depression. And there's a whole spate of that in this article. We can have a bit of a look through it. It sort of goes into it a little bit, but sauna use has been shown to reduce symptoms of depression. So and cognitive health and things like that have shown to be slightly higher. Again, look at the populations that these studies come from. But there is a range of benefits from the sauna that sort of have shown. But I think it's interesting to put it in context and align it with what population you are or your clients are. It will definitely have benefit, but doing sauna, there's probably a limit to how much you can do and should do, and it's going to be very individualized. The ability to access a sauna is also something that probably more readily, but can you do it? Can you put it in consistently? Is probably the thing. I mean, there's a section here that looked at increased endurance, and there was only based on 6 male distance runners, but they implemented a 30-minute sauna twice a week after their sessions or post-workout, and that increased the time it took them to get to exhaustion or run until exhaustion, so by 32% compared to their baseline. So there's potentially increased endurance effects there for athletes, but again, they're also training that period. So how much is attributed to a 40-minute sauna? Who knows? That probably a lot more research would need to go into that as well, or I'd have to look into a little bit more research about that as well. But there is obviously a fair bit of research backing up health benefits of sauna. Whether it definitely shouldn't replace exercise, I think is an important thing to consider. If you can do it on top of exercise, maybe a 10 to 15 minute sauna 2 to 3 times per week, probably has health benefits mentally and physically. It may help, but I wouldn't be replacing it with exercise. Or if you can't access a sauna, as long as you're exercising and hitting that moderate to vigorous intensity exercise, you're probably getting a lot of these benefits as well. It's also important, something on the flip side, any negative effects of the sauna, which we won't go into a lot here, but again, check with your GP before you start any of this heat exposure things. Hydration's important, but everyone's going to be individualized, so don't take this as a prescription. Definitely have a look at yourself, and you would generally start with a short amount of time and then slowly build up as you are able to tolerate it. But yeah, obviously something you want to be careful about doing this heat exposure. Generally not something for kids or adolescents generally. We want to sort of make sure sort of you're well developed and your body can handle changes in heat and things like that. But the other things they have looked at in terms of sauna bathing concerns that they sort of touch on in this paper is male fertility, which they've sort of shown males who went in the sauna twice a week for 15 minutes showed a decrease in sperm count and motility, but that did return to normal within after 6 months of them stopping the sauna. So it was reversible, but that's something to consider. And pregnant women shouldn't use the sauna either. So if you're pregnant, sauna use is not a good idea. But yeah, definitely something that you would want to check with your GP before you start or allied health professional before you start implementing the sauna into your lifestyle, just to make sure it is going to be the right fit for you. But yeah, it's an interesting chat. Saunas again. Have a look at the article, read through it, delve deeper into it a little bit yourself to see what you think. I don't think it's going to be a massive game changer in health, but the health benefits have been shown there. Whether it's on top of exercise, I would say I'd need to have a bit more of a read into it, because while it shows health benefits, are these people exercising, or it shows longevity? So as we age, is it helping us sort of age slower or have some of these cardiovascular benefits for a longer period of time if we're not getting out there and being able to do as much exercise? Potentially, but then you've got to look at the risk versus rewards as we age, and sort of putting this body through these temperatures and time frames and things are up for discussion as well. But very interesting. I think saunas are getting more and more available these days, so if you have a chance, look into it, have a play around, see how you go, see what you think. But yeah, an interesting article to get you started, and has a lot of different areas to help you dive in deeper. So hopefully you get a bit out of that, guys, and my thoughts on the sauna use. If you do have any questions or comments on this, or questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, please reach out. Happy to cover anything you guys want to hear me chat about. Other than that, guys, have a great weekend, and I will talk to you all soon.